here for this. The components of this blue ugly fly are the combination of white and blue yarn that we have blended, so it's not a real bright dark blue. And the feathers up here come off of a pheasant. There are a variety of feathers on a pheasant that we use in fly tying. These, you'll notice, are have a little blue in the tip. And Rich, hand me a couple feathers someplace out of the bag or whatever. Okay. Okay. Now, here's an example of the feather. When we use this, all that fuzzy stuff comes off. So you're just going to strip that off, and part of that center vein will probably pull off, but you end up with something like this. If you're picking these feathers, I would pick one that's pretty long. The barbs on it are pretty long. This one is going to be perfect for the front collar. If you have some longer ones, I thought I brought some. Oh yeah. Some of these, you see, some of these side veins are quite a bit longer. That's what we use for the tail. And you notice that I will look at these on my left look like they're longer than the ones on the right. So those are the ones that's an example I would use for the tail. And the smaller ones work a little bit better for the collar. This fly is kind of a derivative of a pattern called soft hackles. It's just a soft hackle fly with some innovative materials. So I don't know what I've got here. This may be, I think this is a 2XL hook. It uses a 2XL nymph hook. And when I get everything organized here, since this is a wet fly, it's designed to sink, so I usually weight it with some 20/100 lead, and we've used the lead material before. It's kind of a no-brainer, and I think if you follow along with me, this is a pretty simple fly. The thing that makes it unique is the materials are unique. So I'm going to put my lead on like I normally do, and I'm going to make, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 wraps, and get rid of that excess, put all that together, and get my lead weight on there good. And I'm going to make sure I don't have that too close to the eye, but I want to have a little space behind the hook so I've got room that I can tie some stuff on. And I've got room in front that I can work with. So black thread is fine for this fly. So I'm taking some black 8/0 thread. I'm going to start behind right about at the bend, make sure I've got my tag end latched in so it's not all going to unravel on me. And I'm going to get rid of that tag end so I don't have to sit here and hold that. And if you make those wraps through that lead, once you got one wrap in, the rest of it's going to happen. Leave a little space behind the eye for the head of your fly. Now, some people like to use a bead with this. A lot of times, if I'll use a tungsten bead in front or a Cyclops brass bead, I think it sets it off a little bit, but I think it's actually easier to tie without the bead. And I've got a thread base going here. So I'm going to take that feather that had the longer barbs. Boy, it's a kind of a toss-up here. I'm going to look here. I'm going to grab one that's longer so it'll be... You may want to come back and re-grab. Because on a pheasant, you're going to find there are a whole variety. Now you can tell on this one, see how much longer the barbs are? It would be way too long unless you're using like a size 4 hook. But I've got some nice long barbs on either side. So I'm going to grab those barbs and I'm going to pull them. I want each barb to be 90 degrees to the stem. See how I've pulled that apart and they're 90 degrees to the stem? Grab them and peel that off. And the ends of those barbs are all going to be right where you want them. They're going to be together. They're not going to be staggered. Okay? So I'm going to grab that tail clump and I'm going to make that a little bit shorter than the length of the hook, and I'm going to attach those. Okay, that may be a tad long, but it will work. I'm going to get rid of that stuff. Now I could be in trouble today because I forgot to bring my dubbing wax. And the bad thing about some of this yarn dubbing, it makes it a little bit tough to dub. So, oh, super, we got some Wapsi stuff here. I'll use that. I'm just going to lay a little bit of dubbing wax on my thread. And like I said before, if you think you have just the right amount, you still probably have too much. Because if you get too much on at one time, it's just going to glob on there and it will not look real good on your fly. So you can see I've got a pretty fine spread here, and I'm going to twist that counterclockwise. I have found that if you hold the thread with your left hand, that often helps adhere the dubbing to the thread. And you can see I've got a gap up here where I don't have any dubbing. If you lay all your fingers on that thread, you can slide that whole bunch forward. And we'll see how this is going to work. I've got more thread out than I can use here. I'm just going to lay that on at the back. I want the body tapered a little bit, but it doesn't have to be a real pronounced taper. But as I go forward, if you get a hump like that, what's happened, you can see where my dubbing has made a loop away from the thread. When that happens, you're just going to have to rewind it on there a little bit. And I'm going to just go forward with my dubbing. I've got another loop. This stuff just don't want to stick to the... A lot of the animal fur dubbing is easier to work with than this yarn stuff. Okay. Now I'm going to have to apply some more dubbing. I didn't have enough there to work with, so I'm going to put a little bit more on my thread. You want to put your dubbing pretty far forward. We don't need a lot of space for that little pheasant feather hackle up front. So, I missed my other, okay. I'm just going to go forward. This is not going to be my best effort.
Some of the troubles I had.
The dubbing is not cooperating with me. It's not sticking on my thread. Okay. And I'm going to call that good for demonstration purposes. See, I've left some room in front of the dubbing and behind the eyes. I need some room there. Okay. Now, I've got one of these smaller feathers. I'm going to cut that off like so, and that's the point that I'm going to tie in. And I would recommend that you really cinch that in pretty tight. If not, when you start wrapping it, it's liable to come undone. I'm going to put a little half hitch in there to make sure that it didn't come unraveled on me. And I'm going to get my thread out of the way for demo purposes. I'm going to grab my hackle plier. Now I'm going to bend that up, and I'm going to try and grab a few of the barbs right near the center stem, and I'm going to use that. I'm just going to very gently wrap that around. I need maybe, about two wraps is all you need. You don't want your hackle up front being really, really thick. It takes away from son of a gun. Okay, where's the center again? That was going so well. I should have known I was on borrowed time. Okay. There's one. There's about two. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of fold those barbs back a little bit. And then I'm going to hold that with my left hand, come back over here, and try and make sure I've got that hackle trapped. I'm just going to go over and drop it 2 or 3 times. And then I'm going to get rid of the excess. Okay? And I'm going to just fold that back. Wish I'd have brought my light. I'm going to kind of grab the very front edge of those so that the hackles hang a little bit backwards. Then I'm going to finish it off by making a little black thread head on my fly. I like a little bit bigger head than some people do. That'll work for demo purposes to see if I can finish that off. Something else I'll do sometimes if I'm feeling energetic, I will tie in some very small brass wire, and before I put the hackle on, I'll make some brass or copper or gold wraps through that dubbing. It makes it a little bit sturdier, but it's just an extra step, and it's not in the pattern book. But there is a Dawn's Blue Ugly.